You are listening to the Bright Life Podcast, all about ways to stay inspired, chase your dreams, and find more gratitude in the highs and lows of the journey. I'm your host, Jessica Johnson. I'm a business owner, a part-time digital nomad, a self-growth junkie, a believer in other big-hearted women, and am all about sharing tips, tricks, lessons learned, and encouragement so we can all live our biggest, brightest lives. You ready? Let's do this. Hi, gorgeous. Welcome to today's episode. This is a special birthday episode reflecting on lessons learned at 36. So I just had my 37th birthday yesterday, and it was a little bit of a funny one because I'm actually recording this to you in the middle of a ship in the sea. I'm going around India right now, and yesterday I was actually in lockdown for my actual birthday. As a precaution, my husband and I had to stay in quarantine on the ship because we both caught a little bug on the way in from somewhere, right? Hard to say, you're in hotels and travel and all the things, but finally free, feeling good, and wanted to record this episode to you full of a few of the lessons learned the past year, because I had a lot of time to reflect yesterday when I was just sitting in the room. So here's a few things, and I hope these are lessons that can inspire and encourage you as well, no matter what age you are or where you are in life. I think they're universal, and I'm grateful to have learned them this year, and I hope they support you as well. So one of the first things that I learned this year repeatedly was to just put your wildest ideas or dreams out there. Like, actually just claim them and say what they are, even if it's just to the ether, like to the air. Obviously, it's better if you can maybe write them down or even tell someone if you have someone that you trust and are close to. But even if it's just telling yourself and admitting to yourself what you really, really want, something I've seen this year is life has this creative way of bringing solutions into your awareness that you had never even noticed until you verbalized your desire and you said, here's what I'm looking for. And it's not even about worrying how it's going to get there or if it's even possible. So I'll give you a few examples, and then you can think about how it maybe applies to your life as well. Like, even with this very cruise that we're on, where we are heading from the Middle East, Abu Dhabi, all the way down to Australia and New Zealand, I had this idea because my husband and I, we've traveled a lot over the past several years, and there's so much shuttling all around, which is an amazing blessing. I totally will take it any day. But anytime you want to go somewhere far, it's really long flights, lots of car rides, oftentimes these red-eye flights, and then you're unpacking, and then you're packing up a few days later to see the next place. And so we just had this idea of I wonder if there's a way that we could see a lot of our faraway bucket list places, but travel a little bit less than making a dozen long-haul 20-hour flights back and forth from the US to wherever we were going. So that was the idea we put out there. A little while later, we came up with this idea, or lo and behold, it suddenly came into our awareness of we could do a world cruise. So instead of just a few days on a cruise ship, we could do a big distance, and we could start somewhere we've never been and go all the way around the world. And the beauty of it is we get on the cruise, we unpack once, and then every few days we're in a new port and we get to see a new city. And the rest of the time we get to work on board, go to the gym, do our regular routine. But what a great way to be able to see so much of the world while really kind of unpacking once and doing one trip. So that was another just one of those instances where you can put it out there, and even though we'd never thought of a cruise, we'd never been on a major cruise, we had never even really considered it something we wanted to do, the idea materialized once we were able to say, here's a dream, we're putting the openness for the how out there, and then it came. So maybe there's something for you. It doesn't have to be a cruise, doesn't even have to be travel, but maybe there's something that you're just this would be really cool. Okay, so just name what that is, and then don't even worry about if it's possible, how it could work, whether you have the funds or the time off or whatever you need in place. kind of just be open to life delivering a solution to you once you actually name what you want. I've seen this happen so many times in so many instances. I write about it in my book, Your Bright Life, which you can find on Amazon or Barnes & Noble website. But that is kind of one of the secret sauces that I've just seen life deliver on in business and in so many situations where so many people don't even name what they want because they think that they can't achieve it or they don't have whatever they need to get there. Just put it out there and give life a chance, maybe not right away, but maybe eventually to come up with something and to drop something into your awareness that you never even noticed in plain sight before. So that's one of the things that I'm grateful to have learned this year, and I will try to keep implementing because, we all love that control. So it's hard, right? But I will do my best to just put out there whatever desire is on my heart and then let the universe rearrange things to present something to me that I may not have seen before. The second lesson that I really, really learned this year is the steps appear once you start moving. And the example that I learned this year relates to publishing my very first book, which if you've been listening to this podcast, you've probably been along for the journey. But if not, I published my first book this year, self-published, no major marketing engine behind it. And that was just born out of my desire to be able to put something forth into the world on a timeline that I was really excited about and with full creative control and being able to just learn the experience for myself. But with that, there's a lot to learn because you don't have anyone really guiding you through the process. So the lesson this year for me was that's okay. It totally makes sense if you cannot see every single step. But what happens is once you get started, you will start to see the next step in front of you. It's almost like you start walking down one of these magic paths in a video game, and as you start walking, the next little brick appears, and the next one appears, and then before you know it, you've gone down this whole path that you couldn't see when you started. And that's kind of how it felt, and there's probably a situation for you, whether it's starting a podcast, or writing your own book, or launching a business, where it may feel so overwhelming because you cannot see the whole path yet. What I want to share with you, what I learned this year is that's okay, because what will happen is you will see the next obvious step, and that's all you need to act on. And then you'll see the next and the next. So with my book, I could only see that I needed to first write it. So once I wrote it, then I thought, okay, I probably need someone to edit this. And that's when I was able to go and look up editors and start to figure out, how do I find an editor? Once I had an editor, then I could see, okay, I probably need to design this. I need to put it into book formatting, take it from my Google Doc and put it into a book format. And so all of those steps just started to become clear at the exact right time in the path. And so I really think that will happen for whatever your situation is as well. Again, I know it can be scary and a little daunting, but if you have a dream in your heart, believe that you will see the next right step as you get moving. And so that's what I would encourage you for anything that you're holding off on because you just don't know how it'll work out. That's normal. That doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you or with your dream. That is just the way it works for anyone whenever they haven't done something before. But just like everyone else, you will learn the steps, and one day you'll look back and you'll know exactly how to teach it to the next person or how to do it again and replicate it. But it really just takes that willingness to start moving with the step you can see, and then the next one will appear, and the next one will appear after that. So that was step number 2. Number 1 is put your wildest dreams out there. Don't worry about the how, and let the universe surprise you with what comes into your awareness to figure it out. And then number 2 is the steps appear once you start moving, but you got to get moving to see the steps. So take that step and get out there. And then the very last one that I learned, although there were many more, but these are the ones that stood out and I just felt called to share with you, is that no one is behind. No one's behind. So do you ever feel like when you were in college or school or maybe early adulthood, there was kind of this feeling that everyone was still part of the pack, like they were in grade school, and you could kind of tell, who was married and who was having kids. And what I really learned in my 30s is that eventually all of those timelines jumble together, and it doesn't really matter. There's no such thing anymore as on time or on track. I know people that got married and then they got divorced and then they got remarried again. I know people that, had kids early. I know people that had kids later. I know people that started businesses after having careers for 10 years. I was one of them. I had a career and then I was like, wait, this is not as fulfilling as I thought it would be. I'm going to just take a chance on changing it all and starting a business, right? And maybe you feel a pull to do something like that as well. Maybe you want to write a book. Maybe you want to start that podcast. Maybe you want to change industries, careers, like change your business model if it's not working. That is so okay. There is no master timeline. The only thing that matters is that you are living a journey that lights you up, that you are enjoying this great adventure called life and the human experience, that you can reinvent yourself whenever you want. You can live as many chapters as your life can contain and enjoy them to the fullest. Or you know what, maybe some that you will hate, but that'll just make the other ones that much sweeter, and it will still be part of this varied, rich life. You can have as many experiences as you want, and the only timeline that matters to you is yours. The only right timeline is your own. And so no one is behind. That is such a myth. And I hope that the older you get, you see as well, like there's no master timeline. And so if you are living your life wherever you are, and you continually day by day move towards a life that lights you up, that feels fulfilling, that feels like you're making the difference you want to make, that is on time. That's on track. And you can get back on track anytime. I've had so many seasons where it just didn't feel like I knew something was a little bit missing or a little bit off. And that's part of the discovery and part of living as well. Okay, so those are the lessons that stick out to me from 36. Now, I would like to know what lesson you've been learning lately. So if there's one that really stands out to you for this past year, because I know we're also coming up on the end of 2023, shoot me a message at Hi Jessica Johnson on Instagram and let me know your message, your overarching theme of the year, and maybe I'll compile something together so we can all learn from each other and save ourselves going through some of the harder lessons and gaining the wisdom the hard way by learning from each other and getting that encouragement from one another as well. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I will talk to you soon, girl. Thank you so much for listening in. If you love this episode, I have 2 things you are going to love. One is a free copywriter training full of 5 steps to build a profitable copywriting business as your own boss, no matter how much experience you're starting with. Copywriting is what took me from a 9-to-5 to freedom as my own boss, to travel, choose my schedule, replace my corporate income, and have time to work on creative projects like this podcast. And I'd love to give other women the same opportunity. Another, of course, is my book, Your Bright Life. You can find it on Amazon or Audible, where I narrate the audiobook, so it's kind of like a podcast in book form. All of these things are in the podcast show notes. Thank you again for listening. I appreciate you and your review so much, and I'll see you back here next Thursday.